This is the Logitech Brio 300, but does it have what it takes to be the rightful heir to the throne of the Logitech C920 Pro? Let's find out. The Logitech C920 has been around for a long time, and you can't really go wrong with it. Now, you can kind of tell by holding both of them, like I just did, that the Logitech C920 is a little bit heavier. It's got a couple of advantages. It's got a quarter 20 mount on the base of it, whereas the Logitech Brio 300 doesn't have that. But it's an older camera. It's got older firmware, and anything that's built into the camera is going to be a bit outdated and outmoded compared to what's in the Logitech Brio 300. Now this one, the Logitech Brio 300, looks a bit more modern. You can see it's got kind of a conical design. It has a lighter weight to it. It also has a USB-C end on it as well that's fixed to the back of the camera. So it's a bit more modern in terms of its outward appearance. The other thing that's an advantage is the privacy shutter is built in. So you can actually flip it up and have the privacy shutter in the open position, or you can also physically close it to ensure that the camera is not on and that you're not being filmed or recorded in any way. Some other things it shares kind of in common with the Logitech C920 Pro. It has an indicator light to know whether or not the camera is on and running, and it also has a built-in microphone. Now we're going to test all of these things out and see what we can do to tweak them and also compare the images between the C920 Pro and the Logitech Brio 300. Okay, so this is the Logitech Brio 300. This is what the default microphone sounds like. This is the default image with no settings tuned whatsoever on the camera. One thing I did notice, and this is kind of me from the future, by the way, the intro I filmed a completely separate day. When I was actually editing the video between the Logitech C920 and the Brio 300, the Logitech C920 creates a very pinkish, purplish type of default tone, and if you try to color correct it with the white balance, it does go pretty far into the yellow range, kind of like the problems I have with the Logitech Brio 4K. So one thing that, and I'll even put the link in the description to the video I fully produced, it did everything to get it ready to publish when I created it the first time. I would say that, this one actually does look and sound in a lot of ways better than the Logitech C920 Pro. But I'll let you judge that for yourself because I'll put in some of the clips from the other video. Another thing that I learned while doing this was that while I take two different separate camera feeds into OBS, both of them I had feeding in at 1080p onto a 4K canvas with both audio tracks coming in simultaneously, it didn't allow me to kind of create a smooth, seamless experience in terms of what the video looked like. So, for example, there was a lot of stutter, a lot of dropped frames, those types of things. So just to make sure that this camera kind of can see, and you'll see what the camera can do from a performance perspective, I re-recorded all of this quite a few days later versus the intro that you just saw, just to look at kind of frame rate in case you do look at the other video. Linked in the description, you will notice that there's no dropped frames. This camera is smooth at 30 frames per second. The one thing I did notice with the camera that was a little bit interesting was that it has variable frame rates, and it actually gives you a 2997 frame rate NTSC, which is, I think, pretty unique. Not every camera does this. It also lets you do 25 and 24 frames like classic motion pictures, and it will even drop all the way down, I think, to 5 frames as well. But what you get with the Logitech, I think that's a little bit different than the Brio. I'd say the sensor is probably smaller inside of it. So you get a little bit of background in my frame, a bit of background graininess that isn't on the C920. And in general, because it's a fixed frame, there's no focusing. There's no autofocus in the Logitune settings. So you'll see that, from a settings perspective, you don't have all of the options that you have on the C920. That might actually be a good thing in the sense that, it'll be easier to set up, easier to run. You won't have to worry about going out of focus. So again, this is the default audio and the default framing and kind of image from the Logitech Brio 300, and it's got a 70-degree field of view. All right, so this is the Logitech Brio 300, and I've tuned it a little bit with Logitune software. I thought the image was a little bit bright, a little bit lower on the saturation value than I liked it. So what I did was I turned the white balance, auto white balance off. I left on the rest of the defaults. And then for brightness, I toned that down from 128 to 109. I turned the contrast, I left it kind of where it was at 128. The saturation, I moved it up to 140. I thought it was a little bit undersaturated. And I also left the sharpness as it is at 128. So this is the image and the default audio from the Logitech Brio 300. All right, so it's still future Jeremy here in terms of my Logitech C300 versus the C920. My final thoughts on this camera versus the C920, I gotta say, its color balance is superior, even if, in the kind of the previous video that I tried to make, the image was a bit more crispy. I gotta say, this one, just from a color perspective, the images it creates, the ease of use, those types of things are going to be better. The nice thing is it's still supported by Logitech, still being sold by Logitech. You can get firmware updates, you can use Logitune, which you can use on the C920 as well, but you won't be getting any firmware updates or anything for that camera. So is this a worthy successor to the C920 for $60 to $70? Yes, but I would say if you can afford it and you want to get a Logitech webcam, I would opt for the Brio 500, and I would even opt for that, by the way, over the Brio 4K, because that's a really good camera as well. You can check out the review that I have for that Logitech Brio 500, as well as kind of how it shapes up and compares to some of the other Logitech cameras. So check that video out. And if you like this video, be sure to give me a like, and otherwise subscribe to my channel to see more gadget reviews and also remote working tips and things you can do maybe to update your streams or post your own YouTube videos. And as always, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for watching.